Yeah, I definitely want to get my retro stuff set. I don't have anywhere to really hook it up right now, so I'm probably not going to do it anytime soon. But once I move out of this apartment, whenever that may be, that's when I intend. That's also one of my main motivations. Between that and like setting up a place to jam.
Yeah, that takes space, and I know that, that's the downside. Is you kind of need like dedicated
power tools.
Yes.
Every time we're like, oh, it'd really nice to have like a table saw. And it's like, where would we ever put that in our apartment?
Gotta have a garage. Or a shed.
In the dining room.
where all of our other toys are.
I was gonna say I wouldn't even be if I came to your apartment, John, and you did have a table saw in there. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I know.
Although I would expect
very much par for the course for us. Yeah,
I would expect to find it on the deck though. If I saw it anywhere, it'd be like on the back deck. Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey folks.
And we are back as always to talk about some video games. And for once, I feel like, well, by the time this episode comes out, I feel like it'll be like about a month or so after the console has launched. I was going to say for once we're like topical and talking about a brand new thing, but we're always lagging a little bit behind at this point. But yeah, both Randall and I were able to get our hands on a Nintendo Switch 2 here. I unexpectedly kind of was able to get my hands on one kind of last minute. Just thought I'd, run to the store and see if anybody had them on day one, and was able to snag one at Target. And Randall, I think you had a pre-order in the bag, although
I did.
Talking to John earlier, it seemed like those pre-orders weren't even necessarily 100% in the bag for everybody. So not for John himself, but just a friend of ours seemed like they had to go through a little bit of a runaround to eventually track one down. But yeah, you were sitting comfortably waiting for that one to arrive. Did you get it on day one?
I think it was. No, I think it was. Yeah, it was like by the end of day one, basically, is when it showed up. But not everything at the same time. I got like the actual console, no bundle with Mario Kart. Although, thankfully, Mario Kart came separately, physically on the same day. Because I got mine through Best Buy, and it was kind of like a forced bundle with physical Mario Kart and physical Donkey Kong, even though that game isn't out yet, to get this bundle. But the Pro Controller I also ordered right around the same time, and that didn't show up until the next day, which I definitely want to get into the Pro Controller of it all as well.
Yeah, same. Yeah, because I was able, actually, so I grabbed the console, and it was kind of like all like kind of in the spur of the moment. Like I just showed up at Target a little bit before they opened, and then, they brought everybody in, was able, like I said, to get one, and like on the shelf, they didn't have a lot of the like accessories in stock. Like I saw the Switch camera and stuff, and I was like, oh, it looks like everything else is already plucked clean. So maybe you had to pre-order all that stuff.
Right.
But then I saw somebody else, like as I was walking out, holding like a Switch 2 Pro controller in their hand. So I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just ask. They were still in line. So I was like, maybe I'll just ask. And then they were, oh yeah, it looks like we got like 8 or 9 more in the back. So they just went and grabbed me one. So I, checked out separately for that on the way out.
Nice.
But man, I guess we'll just get into that first, just because it came up.
Yeah.
Man, am I happy with that controller.
Same.
Like it feels, before I even used it at all, like I was actually, I think I don't know if it was when we were playing games, John, with the boss fight guys, or when we were just like texting or something. But I was like, man, this controller is amazing. Like even just the texture of it, like the soft, like velvety satin finish on it.
And the analog sticks feel really like soft comparatively.
Soft and like
in a good
kind
way.
of silent. They're like silent. Like, cause I play a lot of, when I'm doing the videos for recording, little video clips and stuff like that. Like I can always hear my Pro Controller sticks clicking away in the background. And like this one, I was like, these really don't click.
No.
And the buttons are silent and kind of have a softness to them as well. The triggers feel amazing. Mm-hmm. They've got those back triggers that you can like custom map if you want to.
Have you done that? I haven't custom mapped them at all yet.
I haven't. No, and I don't really intend to be honest. Like they're kind of awkwardly placed in like a way that I don't really personally see a great use for them. But I do love that they're there for accessibility purposes or just for purposes that people want to like to use them or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like they're higher up, those whatever they call them, pedal buttons or back buttons that are on the back side of the grip. They're like higher up than I am used to on either the 8BitDo Pro controller or the Xbox Elite controller that I have,
or even where they're at on like the Hori split pad.
Yeah, that too.
Pro, which I don't use them at all. They're just there, but like. And they're kind of like, I do like the way they feel though. They're just like this little like clicky, soft, like it's like a silent like mouse click almost is what it feels like.
Yeah. The buttons though, the one other thing I want to say like about the Pro Controller in general is those face buttons. I love that they're bigger and they feel great to press, I think.
Yeah, they do feel great to press. I didn't notice that they were bigger right off the bat, but yeah, even those and the shoulder buttons too just feel like they just have this like softness. Like even when the controller's not in use at all, I literally have picked it up a handful of times just to like push a few buttons and just like, I love how this thing feels. Like it just feels, and I even like the like kind of light gray or like white like bar on the top of it.
Yeah.
Just to give it like a little like two-tone look or whatever. I don't know. And to distinguish it a little bit more from the other one. Although I will say I was playing to go to those joysticks. I was playing. I just fired up a couple random like retro games on the Switch Online service on the NES, and it does like it takes because those joysticks have like a little more like spring to them, and maybe it's just because they're brand new. Like I really felt like I was like, man, I'm really having to like hold with a little bit more force than usual, like down to the right to just like keep running. I was just playing like Journey to Silius of all games on the NES.
Nice.
And I was just running and gunning to the right. And I was like, oh man, you really have to like. It was almost like slipping a little bit.
Didn't use the D-pad, just use the analog stick?
I did use the analog stick, although that's another thing. I'm glad you brought that up because I would have totally forgot about it. But I really did not like the D-pad on the Pro Controller for the regular Switch, but I love this D-pad on this Pro Controller. It's like just a little bit, like you can just feel you can just tell, like on the other D-pad on the regular Pro Controller for the Switch, like I feel like there's no way you could do like a Hadouken roll.
Yeah.
Obviously it could be done, but like it's so stiff, the D-pad for me at least. Where this one I feel like you could definitely do like the Street Fighter quarter circle, no problem with this D-pad on the Switch 2 Pro Controller.
Yeah, I can't say that I've messed with the D-pad on the Switch 2 pad all that much at all yet.
It feels quite a bit better. Although I gotta say, our buddy DJ from the early days of the podcast left his Pro Controller at my apartment last time he came to visit, and I for whatever reason, I guess out of curiosity, I just picked it up. And his D-pad on his Pro Controller feels a lot more like the one on my Switch 2 Pro Controller. So I was like, maybe he either broke it in a lot more, or I just got like a real stiff one where the spring is tighter or something, or. I don't know. I was like, oh, maybe the D-pad was always kind of good, and I just got kind of a weird one.
I wouldn't call that original Pro Controller D-pad good though. Like I prefer the D-pad on like the 8BitDo controllers if I was playing Switch stuff, or
agreed.
Trying to use one of like the official Nintendo retro controllers for Switch or something like that before I would use the Pro Controller for a D-pad specific sort of experience.
Agreed. Although I know I've said it a million times on the podcast. Like I do tend to default to just playing with the joystick now, like unless it's a game that like really warrants me like moving characters on like a grid or something like that. Or every now and then there is a game that just like, this platforming just feels better with the D-pad for whatever random reason, because I grew up with playing it, or it just feels better because it's a little more rigid or whatever reason. But like, I do just like, I don't know. I've just grown to just get used to it just because it's just what I have to play with a lot of the times. And it's more comfortable to hold in that position as opposed to like moving my thumb over to the D-pad at the bottom.
Right. And to keep it there without as much force potentially, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But
although I will say too, I know we're going to talk about the Mario Kart World, but Tina and I were playing Mario Kart World. I actually got a second Pro Controller for Switch 2 already because Costco had it $10 cheaper there. I'm like, okay, sure.
I'd be tempted too because it's a pricey controller.
Yeah.
That's honestly half the reason I was like, I'm not mad that they're out of them. That's $85 I'm saving today, and I'll get one down the road.
I know it.
And then I was like, I'm already spending X amount of dollars now, on the console, and I did the same thing. I didn't get the bundle, even though I feel like an idiot. I said this to John too. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'm like sitting there looking to play, going over to my friend's house to play Mario Kart 8, and going, I wish I just had it on the console and I didn't have to dig out my cartridge every time. So I really should have just bought the bundle and then just bought the physical copy too if I really wanted to down the road, or maybe waited for them to like release like a physical of like with all the DLC, 10 years later if they end up doing something like that. But they never did that. I guess they like sort of did with Deluxe because it had like some of the DLC, but then they still kept releasing more after that. So I just figured I don't know, for whatever reason, I just want to have the game on my shelf. But I guess before we get into Mario Kart World, though, one more thing I just want to say about like the actual Switch 2, and I think you'll agree with this as well. The eShop is just night and day. It is like you can,
it actually functions.
You can just like scroll through games at will, but like you can go to your wish list and then like literally click on like a checkbox that only shows the games that are on sale. And filter them by price or most recently added or oldest added, or whatever you want to do. And like it's just so much better. The only thing that I'll say that I almost don't like is like, because like when you're scrolling through the games, it'll auto play like a video, and like to the point where like it auto plays the video immediately so that you like can't even see what the game was before you like you're like if you're scrolling fast enough, you're like, oh man, I didn't even I stopped and I didn't even read what the game was, and now it's just playing a trailer. And a lot of the trailers start off with like kind of like a little slow burn intro, and you're like, what the hell game is this?
I'm grumpy old man about any autoplay anything, so no thank you for that.
I know. I wonder if you can turn it off in like the settings or something. I bet you probably can. And I bet you it would then run even smoother. If you could.
It might. Yeah.
Because I turn off autoplay on like Steam. Like it's just like I'll look through the screenshots, and then if I want to watch the trailer, I'll watch the trailer.
Right. Exactly. Don't blare stuff at me.
Yeah, I don't know if you feel the same, but it's just been really fun to like browse the eShop and just like quickly scroll through my wish list and be okay, nothing I want to snag right now. Where it used to be like a 20-30 minute experience where I'd be like, I got a podcast on, I'm just scrolling page by page, or not technically page, but like just getting to the 3-dot loading screen and just waiting for the next 12 or 15 games to load. And just,
the preview screenshots to load. Yeah. On the original
and just
Switch.
like, I think, why did I add this game to my wish list again? I don't even remember. It doesn't even look that good. Where like, now it just feels like you can just rip right through it, no problem. It runs like butter. And even just like the home screen, the menus. I actually got super excited when you were like doing like the install at the very beginning. Like it played some background music, and I was like, are they gonna have music on the home screen and stuff? But no such luck. But even like it's just slight updates to all the sounds on the Switch. Yeah. But it's like they're all different, and they all just sound like, I don't know, just a little juicier. Even like the little sound when you turn on the console, like it just makes us like really like warm,
coming from
inviting,
the console.
Like, it like almost, it just sounds like, hey, let's play some games. Like that's exactly what it sounds like. It's just inviting you to have some fun.
No, it's a nice experience, but it's still pretty, stripped down like the Switch was, the main focus being like just get to loading the game fast. Although, I will say a couple of things on the eShop front. That's the only time my Switch 2 has froze. Like, let me hold the power button down until I can force this thing to start up again, because no button inputs, screen inputs, anything was taking. And that was because I was in the eShop looking at something on my wish list, and I don't know what happened there, but it locked up on me. And then playing Mario Kart, like I will say too, the Pro controller, I don't know if it's like a drift thing or if it's like a Nintendo 64 analog stick centering problem where like I wasn't perfectly still and it was like off center axis when I started with the pairing of the controller to the Switch 2, but it was like really veering right the whole time on my controller, like just this last time. And I'm kind of curious as to, did I just get, a bad controller, a lemon there, or was this just a one-time thing with pairing it? And I had the analog stick weird, and I don't know. But
I've kind of forgot about that when you would like plug in a controller, and if like the analog stick was like pointed to the right, it would think that was the center position. That was center, and then trick it.
Yes.
I totally forgot about that.
Like try again. Yeah.
No,
but that was the only thing. Like otherwise it's been a very smooth experience with the Switch 2, and I got the biggest express micro SD card that you could get, which is like 256 gig, which is already like almost filled up just from me downloading the Switch digital games that it lets me download or whatever. And that's a little bit of a clunky process because it's doing that whole like virtual game card thing, like one by one for everything. I've not found a way to like bulk download my original Switch stuff onto Switch 2, which is a little frustrating. Besides the stuff that was already downloaded on the OLED Switch, which was my primary Switch before when I did the transfer, that stuff came over fine. But like all the other digital games that I'd bought over that however long the Switch has been out, 7-8 years, that I wanted to download a few of, was like a one by one experience in the eShop every single time, like no matter what.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, I think if you go to the virtual game card tab, that's where you can go and download them in bulk. I thought I saw that somewhere.
Maybe I did it wrong.
But I could be wrong too. Maybe I might be thinking of something I was doing on my PS4 too, because I was also cleaning off a bunch of like downloads on there, because games on there are like freaking 60 gigs, and I'm just like, okay, I gotta download or clear this out so I can download the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
I actually haven't snagged a new micro SD card yet, or Express or whatever, because I'm just like, there's enough storage on there. I'll just kind of, install the handful of things I want to play for now, and then I'll grab one when I feel like just springing for like a terabyte or whatever, when they get a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Because I do want to.
It's not a bad call.
Do want to just definitely have some extra storage, but it's nice to have I think it has 256 built into the actual console. So
sounds right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I definitely, like when I first booted it up, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to have to go and pause or cancel all these downloads, because otherwise I'm just going to have to let this thing like download all these games for, 6 hours or whatever.
I pulled the Ethernet cord from my like work computer setup to plug it into that, just to be like, no, we're not going to sit on this for days. Like that does not work for me. And it was quite a bit faster once I did that. Like no games idling. Put this whole system in idle mode. We're not playing anything. Plug it in hardwire. Like this was even before I plugged it into the TV. Like no, just dock Ethernet. Just do your thing. Just download a bunch.
Nice. It is nice that they have that Ethernet port built right into the dock too.
Yes.
I don't think they had that on the Switch. I don't know if the OLED had that at all.
OLED did for sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it did have it on the Switch. Maybe I'm thinking of the Wii that had that little dongle you had.
USB dongle
attached to it. Yeah. But I guess to get into the main game, Mario Kart World here, I've spent a decent amount of time with this one, actually. I've played through all of the Grand Prix circuits.
Same.
I've also played through I did play through all the knockout tours, because a buddy of mine was able to snag a Switch 2 like about a week or so after launch, and then had a few of us over at his place to check out. He was just excited to have it, so we all went over there and played through. I think we played through, unless they add another one, because with the Grand Prix, like after you play through them all, they add one more set of 4 tracks at the end. Mm-hmm. So one more like cup or whatever. Mm-hmm. So maybe they do that as well with the knockout tour. And because we did that first there, that was like his first time playing the game. So like maybe there's another cup of that as well if you unlock the tracks.
I didn't do all the knockout tour stuff. I just kind of like I think we did through that once or whatever, the first set of levels or whatever, however that setup works.
Yeah, I did like 1 or 2 of those myself. Like I did all the Grand Prix, 1 or 2 of those myself, and then I played a decent amount of, I shouldn't say a decent amount, but maybe like 30 minutes to an hour of like the free roam, like exploration stuff, just kind of exploring around.
Hardly any of that, like almost none.
Yeah. You're not missing too much. It's like real open-ended, and like there's like not much there. And then when you like trigger like a challenge, you have to like, if you fail the challenge, you have to like, you click a button to retry, but it actually makes you like it like brings you to before you hit the switch, and then you got to go hit the switch again, and then it plays the little video, and it's like, oh no. Yeah, it's real annoying. I hope they can fix that maybe with a patch or something. Because it's like, man, if you don't get it in the first like 3 or 4 tries, it really disincentivizes you to want to do it again.
Yeah.
It is fun though to like cruise around, and like it probably would be fun if you were like just cruising around with some friends, online and just hanging out. But I don't know. I don't see myself playing that mode a ton. And I do think, like, on the whole, like, as much as I was kind of raving about the Switch 2 here, I've been a little bit, like, underwhelmed in a lot of regards, too, because I'm like, it's like the load times aren't, like, as snappy as I hoped they would be, or as, there's certain aspects of it, like, aren't as much of an upgrade as I thought they would be. But Mario Kart World, I think, is another part of it. I was a little bit disappointed by this game, even though there's certain aspects of it that I really like and I think are an upgrade or an improvement or just a nice change from Mario Kart 8. I don't really like and I was actually excited about this concept of like the connecting tracks and like, you play the race and then you have to do the driving between between the tracks to get to the next course. But then when I played the Grand Prix mode, I really don't like the structure because the way it works is you have the 4 tracks like normal.
Yeah.
But the first track, you do 3 laps around that track just like it's a normal race. And then every track after that, the first 2 laps of like the next race are actually just driving to the next track. And then you just do 1 lap around that track.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And you kind of like, because the first 2 like quote unquote laps are just like getting from point A to point B, there's not really a ton of good opportunities to like take a cool shortcut or I don't know. It's just like a little bit more bare bones. Like it doesn't have the personality of like the tracks. So it just like, to me, just feels like I'm just driving in like a less interesting version of the game for 2/3 of the race. Yeah. And then I finally get to the cool part. And then as soon as I get there, it's over. Oh. I was very disappointed by that aspect of the game. And especially because I thought it was going to be like a thing that I was going to really like about it. But I'm just like, man, you really can't just play. There's no good mode to just play like 3-lap tracks around the courses. So I was pretty disappointed by that. And then Knockout Tour makes it a little bit better because it's just going to like string together. I think it's 5 or 6 tracks. So you like basically instead of you're just doing 1 lap around like all of them essentially, and then just doing the roads that string between them. And you're not even really doing a proper lap, I don't think. It just kind of weaves in through those roads. But I don't know. It just like, it doesn't, something about the fact that you're just like going from point A to point B, it like loses something for me. Even though that's obviously what you're doing, even when you're going around the track.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just like loses a little bit for me. But I feel like they almost had to do that to accommodate having 24 racers, because otherwise there'd just be shells flying everywhere because people would be lapping one another and it would just be chaos.
Baby
I feel like it was almost
Park.
like out of necessity. Yeah.
Right.
Like every track would be Baby Park.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, I to be honest, I like this game so far. I like it quite a bit. I love that they brought over the soundtrack vibes from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. They got their same like SNL sounding jazz band renditions of all the
that's a great way to
tracks,
put it.
And that's fun stuff, including a lot of tracks of like,
amazing.
Oh my gosh, this is like the music at the end of like when you completed a race in Mario Kart 64 or like Double Dash. They included a lot of that sort of music.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there's a lot of like throwback like upgrades to the songs, and like, or even just to like original like Mario Brothers music and stuff, Super Mario Brothers, and like, oh, that's a cool rendition on that. Like I don't even notice that it's that melody at first,
Yeah, but I also don't mind the structural conceit of how they're doing the Grand Prix with going between the different tracks. I don't know. I think they've like milked that cow as much as they could with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with the 3 laps. I like that there's a lot of variety, and I know Tina and I were just kind of letting it like wash over us kind of thing. And there's still like a lot of really good track design, and I like that they're all new levels because it's a whole different structure than what came before it. Even though there's obviously similar themes, you're getting some kind of like Moo Moo Meadows-esque stuff and things like that. But that's just like Mario Kart theming coming back into play and the echoing of that. But I really like a lot of the new stuff.
Although Moo Moo Meadows like is the same exact track, like it is like with slight modifications, but I think there's 16 new tracks and 14 old tracks.
But they're still like they're like new, but in a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sort of remix kind of way,
And even more so than that in some cases. Like there's one that's like Peach's Beach or something. I think it's like a GameCube level, and it's like the first lap is like the same, but then like everything after that is like, oh, this is a totally new track. So there is like. Or even like Rainbow Road, it was like some of this feels familiar, but some of it almost felt like it was like a greatest hits of like 5 different Rainbow Roads all in one or something.
Yeah. And I like the unlocks, the cart unlocks. I like the way the character select screen stuff works and how you have variants of character. Like you get, biker Waluigi and I don't know, different like weird Bowser Juniors and stuff. Like I think that stuff's pretty fun. I like that they're not taking it too seriously.
Although I do wish those were just like costumes, like pick the character and then like pick the costume you want, just because it's like so much to pick through. You're just like, let me keep cycling.
Yeah.
And then the way you unlock characters is kind of weird. Like you only unlock a character. At first I was like, how am I getting, like sometimes I get a character, sometimes I don't.
I know. Yeah.
Like do I win the cup? Like what do I need to do here? And it's like, apparently what needs to happen is another character needs to get like the Kamek item, and then what that does is like transforms characters or all the racers into like a random character. And then whatever random character you get transformed into is the character you unlock. So it's like just pure luck and randomness.
Oh, I didn't even realize.
The unlocks. Yeah, I thought I was like trying to like, because at first I did get like, some trophies in the first few cups and whatever, and then I started doing a little worse, and I was like, oh man, maybe I gotta do a little better to get the unlocks. But yeah, I read up and it's like just pure randomness,
because the carts and bikes and stuff are getting unlocked through the coins. I think,
those are
like
all
previous.
through the coins.
Yeah.
I do like too that the cars and the wheels, like it's all one thing now. It's not like, oh, you got to pick your wheels and then pick your car and then pick your glider, mechanic or whatever. Like it's all just, it's like pick your character, which has all those characters have their stats. That's another annoying thing though, which carries over. Like if every character is going to have different stats, then show me the stats of the character before I pick them. And then, cause you kind of have to like pick the character and then see what the stats are with all the cars, and then go, okay, this character is way slower, so let me pick a different character. One huge upgrade to the game, though, I will say, I love the fact that you do not go underwater anymore, and you ride on the water, and you're basically just playing wave race.
Oh my God, the wave race stuff! I was losing my marbles about this. They did wave race Mario Kart.
Yeah, I almost was like, just get rid of the fucking roads and just give me wave race Mario Kart, because that's all I want.
It felt so good.
It feels amazing.
Yeah.
It feels amazing. So they either need to make a new wave race, or they need to really lean into this water mechanic.
They don't have to do
some of like the
they
DLC tracks. Yeah,
do both of those things.
Exactly. No, I was here. There's even like a wave race kind of themed car, or maybe it's just like looks like a jet ski, but to me, I'm just like, that's the wave race car.
Yeah,
man.
the Kawasaki. Give it to me. Yeah. Come on.
And let's do this. That's actually one of my favorite cars just in general too. It's got good stats. Been going with like Hammer Bro. Seems to be one of my favorite characters so far.
Nice.
I'm really hoping to unlock Charge and Chuck. Just
I got
it
Charge
feels
and
like,
Chuck. Yeah.
That was actually the first character I got the Kamek item and then transformed everyone else into Charge and Chuck, but didn't unlock them for me. So
weird.
Yeah, very weird mechanic. But I guess that they just really kind of lean into like the party element of just like, hey, it's just chaos. You're just playing with your friends, which is, that's when I started having more fun with the game, is when I, because I was like sitting there like, okay, I got my brand new system. I got my brand new game. I didn't even think I was going to get it today. Now I got it. And like, I can't wait to fire this up. And then it was just like, it's good, but it's whatever. And then like when I got to play it with my friends over at my buddy's house the other day and play 4-player and, do all the knockout tracks, like they seem to be liking it more than me still. But I was definitely having way more fun once I got into that setting.
Oh, definitely.
With it, as opposed to just, playing alone and just checking it out and going like, brand new Mario Kart game. Yeah, this is best played with friends.
Absolutely is. Yes. And just let it wash over you that way. That's its strength. And it looks great too. We didn't really talk about that. It looks really nice, especially on like that's the thing with the Switch too. The biggest difference is it can push 4K. Maybe not quite as well as the new, Xbox Series X or PS5 or PS5 Pro, but it can push 4K and it can look quite nice on a 4K set. I'll say that.
Yeah. I mean, Nintendo's always done such a great job of getting the maximum out of their hardware.
Yeah.
So it's like the fact that they have access to being able to release games in 4K.
4K
it's
HDR.
Like, okay, this is definitely, Yep. Yeah, it looks nice. Like you can see all the denim textures on Luigi's overalls and everything.
Yes.
Which I guess we've been saying that since Super Smash Brothers on the Wii. Look at the new texture of the denim on Mario. But yeah, I don't know. Anything else you want to add to the Switch 2 stuff before
there'll be more later.
move on. Yeah. We'll definitely be diving in. It does feel like a nice, just upgrade and totally seamless, other than like, it did take some time to download the stuff and whatever, but it's like, just basically feels like I'm using the same thing and like just have like an upgraded piece of hardware
for sure
hooked up to my TV, and it was like completely seamless in the transfer process, other than it taking some time.
Yeah, evolution of the same platform, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect way to put it.
Yep.
But yeah, why don't we kick it over to John here after enough blabbering about the Switch to talk about a little shoot 'em up action.
Yeah, I've been going hard into FPSs recently, and like I've been also going back into some earlier titles in series or catalogs that I've been either, not visiting or not even like thinking about until recently. And one that I'm going to kind of briefly talk about before I get into my other one is Doom 3, which wasn't one that was particularly on my radar. It wasn't one that, I'd been looking forward to playing. It was more of, what do I have already downloaded onto my Steam Deck, and what can I boot up when I'm, browsing my library, and they're like, I haven't played this yet. Let's see what this one is like. And like,
nice.
The first version that I tried like didn't boot, or like it had one of those old keys that would be like on the back of the jewel case of the CD that you would have to put in.
Yes.
And copying that over on the Steam Deck wasn't working, so I was like, all right, well, this isn't one of the 3 versions of Doom 3 that I own. Like, this one isn't the one I'm going to be working with. So I believe it's Doom 3, the BFG version. And like that one also has some DLC that I downloaded as well, but I've only been playing the original campaign. And I have on this podcast talked at length about how much like Doom 2016 is one of my favorite first-person shooters. It's like it has everything that I really love about like FPSs, and like super hyper mobile and like really high intensity action. But I didn't really realize like how much of like a direct sequel or a direct like aesthetic like through line there was between Doom 2016 and Doom 3, where like Doom 3, the loading screens look exactly the same as the loading screens in Doom 2016, like down to like the like borders on like the like still images, where it would have like everything is like so clearly like not like reusing assets, but is like the Doom 2016 is like very clearly drawing inspiration from Doom 3, like in so many different ways. But like it's also a game that came out, a decade plus prior to Doom 2016. So it's really fascinating to see that type of game like told in a like very different context, or using a very different set of, ability of making games at the time. So like the opening section is walking through this like Mars research colony, like as it's the calm before the storm, but you are seeing the groundwork being laid down, where everyone's talking about how they're overworked or how the like working conditions are unsafe. Like you walk past a room and you see like you can look, if you like don't walk as quickly as you're supposed to through the thing, you can see like someone on a medical table like get like basically put down because they get turned into a zombie. Like you see all of this setting
stuff.
It's really good. Yeah, it's absolutely that sort of like environmental storytelling, or like live cut scenes happening around you. Yeah. And like it's really explicit about all of the things that are happening in it, as opposed to Doom 2016, which is streamlined for just like giving you to like into the action as quickly as possible. It will tell you the story in the background as you're like walking through an area, and like Doom 3 does that too, but it is also like really interested in showing you these things. Like it has audio logs in your PDA. It has like emails that you can read and like see like people sending like messages like before like the portal to hell opens up about their concerns about the projects that they're working on. Like it's really good, like clever storytelling, and like I don't know, it's really interesting to see like this version of a similar game that 2016 is, but like leaning way more heavily into storytelling than I was expecting it to, because my prior experience with Doom is like either Doom 2016 or the original Doom.
Right. You definitely don't think storytelling when you think Doom. And like you said,
No.
even though there is some storytelling in 2016, it's all like done. Like I just booted that up. Actually, I just picked it up on PS4, and like the opening scene, and I'd played that before. I'd actually played the first level or whatever on Game Pass way back when, and probably said the same thing. But like just the way it opens up, and you're like, you're just like kind of wake up on this slab or table, and your character is basically just like, get this shit out of here. Let's get this show on the road.
It's
Like,
so much
I
goofier.
love that opening. Yeah. But it very much is like, just like, okay, you know what to expect here. Where like, it sounds like Doom 3 is like, more like, hey, you know what you saw in the previous games. Like, what if we could actually tell you the story about it or something?
And it's great. Like I like both ways, because like Doom 2016 is also it's a first person shooter that's made in 2016 as opposed to a first person shooter made in like the early 2000s. Yeah. So like I'm sure that this game would control so much better with a mouse and keyboard as opposed to the like binding control, like the controller binding that like was custom made for it, and it didn't have a crouch button, so I had to remap that to that. So like it's still a little bit like not as smooth, and I'm bad at it, but I don't know. It's great. I'm enjoying it. It's really interesting. It's ambitious. It's doing a lot of stuff, and it also has my favorite thing in video games, which is light management. It has a flashlight that like you need to basically turn on at all times to see into all these dark environments, and the battery depletes, so you can't have it on all the time, otherwise it'll like run out in situations where you'll need it. It's so great. I love it.
Oh, I love that, because I remember like this why I avoided Doom 3 in those days when I had platforms I could play, because a lot of reviewers is like, oh, it's too dark. It's like it's basically just a horror game. Like it's not
it's great.
Like do it all.
It's
like
so spooky.
It just seemed like, that's all that they were like hitting on over and over again was just, it's too dark and it's just a horror game, and it's not like the frenetic like Doom, like the 90s Dooms were, or whatever was
apparently
at the time anyway.
Yeah, apparently the original version, I think you had to like switch from your gun to your flashlight, as opposed to, I think in the BFG edition, you can use both simultaneously, which it would be so much more difficult if like, but
yeah,
that makes
as soon
sense.
as you said the flashlight, I was like, I definitely feel like I've heard people complain about that before. So that sounds like they corrected that, or at least, came up with some kind of a fix for the update.
Yeah. But the other game that I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that I had played before, I think, Kevin, at your apartment, maybe when we like first started this podcast.
I know, because I played it back in the day for the podcast. Like DJ put me up to it. Like, you got to play it. Maybe
Was
we
this
played
back
it
when we
together,
were-
like checking it out. Yeah.
Back when we were like challenging each other to play games, or like,
Yeah, that sounds right.
That sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah.
man, that's an old thing from this
throwback.
podcast that we don't do anymore.
Nobody's got time for
Thank
that.
God.
Yeah. Oh man. But the game that I've been playing is Titanfall 2 by Respawn, the game that is almost a decade old at this point.
Yeah, that's wild.
Which is wild to think about. But I had played the first level of the campaign, but I hadn't played anything past that. We've talked about Apex Legends on this podcast before. We've talked about, I think, Jedi Fallen Order on the podcast. I played that before, but I'd hadn't gone back to Titanfall 2 like since we started the podcast basically, and I've only heard good things about it, and I've like how it's one of the best FPS campaigns in any game. And I went back and yep, it's one of the best campaigns I've ever played in an FPS.
Oh shoot.
Like, oh, it is.
The controls are amazing.
Yeah.
You were talking about the wall running earlier, and it's so good.
It's that hyper mobile like gameplay that I really enjoy. But in addition to that, it also has this entire like mech centric gameplay with the Titans themselves, but you have so many different loadouts. So those have their own like feel to them. And
I love that.
before we hopped on the call today, I was able to squeeze out a multiplayer co-op mode. It took a long time for matchmaking to find some other people who are playing, but I was able to get into a co-op mode, which was just like horde mode of like taking things down, but I was all at like level 1 for everything, but those have their own progressions. You can level up the Titans in that mode and have different loadouts for that. But man, like the campaign was just a very like straightforward of like, here's everything that you can do in this. It's also on the Source engine, which I didn't realize that it was built on.
That's wild.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
God, it is so like, it is just a very good shooter by every metric of it. And like, it's a good story in the campaign. I'm a little bummed that it's like, I think it's a little too short, but that's just because, you know, I want more. So it's a good place to be if you're, you know, making a game like that. But it really just made me at the end of the day so much more mad that Apex Legends is what they've been spending their time doing instead of making Titanfall 3, which has been canceled since, I believe.
Yeah, because they had intentions to make that game at one point, didn't they? Yeah.
And at the end of Titanfall 2, it basically teases Apex Legends as a thing, and I was like, it just made me. It left a bad taste in my mouth of like,
no warm
that's
handoff
weird.
to a different game that's not as good. No, thank you.
That's weird, especially when honestly, like they could probably make a free to play version of Titanfall. Not that I'd rather them just make Titanfall 3, but yeah, I mean,
Titanfall 2 is still there. Like, that's the nice thing that I was like really happy about. You know, it took a while to matchmake, and yes, I have a 0 level experience. So also I'm probably running a handicap for the rest of my team while have like no, like my loadout is the like default loadout while everyone else has been playing this game for the past 10 years. It's really fun. I really enjoy it. I really love, you know, the variety of gameplay that, you know, the mech game or the mech aspect of it, in addition to it just being a really competent FPS on top of that. But,
man.
Good games.
Man.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Especially because I think the original Titanfall did not have a campaign. I think it was like only a multiplayer game. I might be mixing that up with a different game.
That sounds vaguely
I sort of remember
familiar
that
to
being
me too.
I might be mixing it up with Destiny I'm like in my head I'm like thinking I'm mixing those two up. I always get those two games confused in my head just because I feel like they came out kind of in the same era.
Yeah,
and
they
sort
both
of a big
are
deal.
trapped like they're like really good development teams into games as service hell for
right
forever.
That's true.
Just squandering their ability to make incredible games by making
Squeeze content.
I know. It's such a shame.
Yeah,
it's such a shame.
It's a real
but
bummer.
happy to hear that you're having a blast with that one, though.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more multiplayer and seeing how long between matches it'll take for it to load.
Nice. Well, Randall, why don't we kick it over to you here to close this out for the evening?
Yeah. I've alluded to wanting to get my retro setup again over many years, moons, etc. moves. It's happened. It is now set up. Actually bought like end of last year, bought like a newer OLED TV to replace one that was like making all yellow colors green that I just put up with for years, because OLED TVs, especially then, were very expensive, and burn-in was a real thing, and now it's not as much, et cetera, et cetera. But I was able to like hand me down a 4K TV to be like my effectively retro game setup TV, which positives and negatives with existing technical hardware. But there's some really, really, really impressive kind of genius modder types in this retro game community that are out there that have made video scalers that allow you to hook up to modern televisions. I had a previous version from this guy, Mike Chi. He makes these RetroTink video scalers. I had this RetroTink 5X, which would let you scale up something from 240p and other weird like interlaced resolutions up to 1080p without like missing a beat,
Nice,
where like cheaper scalers might take a few, like literally 2-3 seconds to like flash the image up once it's been processed, because it's having to like transcode from one input to output to something that your TV will accept. But this like Mike Chi guy's a genius, and he's figured it out, and then he created a RetroTink 4K, and it's very expensive, but I bit the bullet on it because I have a whole bunch of these original hardware systems, let alone some of the analog.
I know,
released.
I was just going to say,
Yeah, and those analog kind of boutique systems will also allow you to say, don't output this in just 1080p. Output this in a analog DAC mode, so you're outputting as if it was an original Super Nintendo, even though I'm using the analog Super Nintendo. I'm telling it, do this as a 240p analog signal that then gets taken as just like the purest distillation of the thing by the RetroTink 4K, and then blows it up onto my OLED TV, and it looks perfect and beautiful.
Nice.
Yes, and without any lag, any of that stuff, right?
That's impressive. Yeah, whenever you're running things through multiple, pieces of equipment, you're definitely going to get a little bit of slowdown or lag or whatever. Yeah.
Not here, but it's a process. And the other
That's
part
also
of
just
that,
impressive, like
Yes.
as a concept, like
It's insane.
Just being able to do that is so cool.
they're utilizing FPGA chips, which are not cheap, but it's also what all these analog systems use to basically hardware emulate these old game systems in a way that's sustainable going forward. But then I also got this thing called a scalable video switch, which is another kind of new concept by a modder that basically says, what are your inputs and outputs? Buy the modules specific to your inputs and outputs. And so to explain basically what I did is I bought like 4 SCART inputs and, one component input and one S-video / composite input and maybe one VGA input. And then it all outputs from like a unified VGA signal into my RetroTink 4K in a way where it'll automatically switch based on the signal it's picking up. And it does this, and you build this scalable video switch by buying the modules. Like you're literally hand building this thing.
So it's like a system selector, but you're like buying each system that you're selecting basically to plug into it. That's awesome.
And the modular analog nature of that is so cool. God, it's awesome.
Very, very cool. And it's scalable, hence scalable video switch. Like I can say, I bought another system. I guess I need to go buy another, SCART module or a component or D terminal because I got the Japanese version of the component cable or whatever. Like there's all kinds of stuff you can do, or Dreamcast with VGA, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and those two things play together beautifully. They both of these developers, as such, kind of made sure that was the case to kind of streamline it and make it dummy proof once you've done all the pre-configuring effectively, which is where I want to be. I want to do all the pre-work, and then I can just turn the thing on, and it recognizes it, and it works. Yeah, and it looks better than even on my CRT when I was doing everything through S-Video, which already looked kind of phenomenal. Yeah. But then on top of that, I'm a sicko for all of this, retro community stuff. And so on Indiegogo, I don't even know how long ago, over a year, probably more. All of these things are always over a year. It's fine.
Yeah. Then you forget you paid for them, and then they arrive, and you're like, "Hey, nice! I got these freebies."
You're getting a ping through your email about confirming your shipping address, and you're like, "Oh, that's interesting." Nice.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And I got all that stuff. That's awesome. Yeah. So, this company that I hadn't heard of before, like TR Fight Stick, I think they're called. They made this octopus arcade stick, and the whole thought there is, let's make a universal retro arcade stick. Let's make it where it's universally compatible with all of the main retro hardware you could ever think of. And then on top of that, let's build in a VMU into this arcade stick for Dreamcast. So it's got an actual screen at the top so that when you plug it into a Dreamcast, it has the built-in VMU save storage, and the screen, as if you were playing whatever game on Dreamcast, it'll pop up the little cute VMU image, or whatever the VMU's features were for that given Dreamcast game will pop up there. And then you can because this is a modern thing, you could plug it into your PC and back up those saves, all that fun stuff. But effectively, this arcade stick, what they did is sold you all of the cables that you might want for the systems that you would have across the board, and then you're just switching the cables.
Nice.
There's no hardwired cable on this thing. You're just plugging in either like an Ethernet style RJ45 cable, or like a real big old multi-port cable in for specific systems to just plug right into the ports on your old hardware, and it just works beautifully. NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, Saturn, GameCube, Turbo Graphics, Turbo Duo, original Xbox, Neo Geo. I have all of these cables. Came with Sanwa parts. Those that know will know that that's pretty good arcade parts for it to come with. I got two of them because I'm a sicko and knew that I would want to down the road anyway. Why not do it cheaper on the front side? And that just happened. I just got this like a couple of days ago, so it's early days, but I'm very excited. It just kind of like brought the whole retro experience together,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like it's almost meant to be to get them right now. That's awesome, though, to just be able to plug and play and swap between all the different retro platforms, especially being that you have so many of them. Like,
yes,
that's a sweet feature, because those are expensive, but knowing that you can use it across the board is like you can stomach it a little better.
Very much so, because I was in with this one, the guys that made Pure Solar, was just there's a whole shady history with that. But in one of the, for this game Paprium on Sega Genesis, which is a beat 'em up, it's crazy what they did on Sega Genesis, but the guy is super shady. Long story short, I remember
you talking about that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. He also sold arcade sticks. I got those arcade sticks because damn, I really want a good Sega Genesis arcade stick. There's so many cool arcade to home conversions on that system. But I was onesie twosying where it would only really work with that hardware. Maybe it would work with Saturn 2 or whatever, but it wouldn't be universally compatible by any stretch. And then I'm trying to buy converters that allow me to use my modern arcade stick with these different things, but then that sometimes introduce lag. Sometimes it'd be a little ticky-tacky. It's kind of like a workaround, as opposed to this, which is developed for it. So now just use the same arcade stick across these experiences. Today we played Gauntlet Dark Legacy on GameCube with these arcade sticks. Which is an arcade game,
Yes.
love those games. And even though, it gets a little wonky because then the GameCube conversion utilizes the D-pad, and to do that you kind of have to like hit a switch on the arcade stick to control the D-pad with your arcade stick, as it were, so a little wonky, but it still is fine once you get used to it. But then we went from that to playing like Final Fight 2 on Super Nintendo with these arcade sticks, and then that felt great. Just switch out the cables.
That's awesome, and then you can get used to the feel of that arcade stick, and like just like, okay, I can use this with any game, and it's like I feel right at home.
Exactly.
So that's huge,
Yes, and also arcade sticks are literally huge, and it's become a bit of a meme / joke of how many arcade sticks I've brought into this home. So mayhaps we can, pare it down a little bit over time if these fit the bill down the road.
Yeah.
So
that's a good investment too. Yeah, even because it sounds, I was looking them up just now, they're definitely not cheap. So.
No, they were cheaper on the Indiegogo than they are now. I'll say that much. I got a pretty good deal at that time, but I knew it. But I'm the sicko that's got 2 Wii U arcade sticks, let alone everything else. So it's something else.
That's awesome.
I don't have to say anything more about this. There'll be other times.
It's so cool though. Just like the fact that people are making these at all, like
I love it.
Hardware is, I think, a really underappreciated thing, as like you get virtual like versions of everything, or people are playing ROMs and like they're all just using, whatever wireless controller they have, but like actually building and like having to problem solve to build something physical and mechanical is so interesting.
That actually works,
Controlling for different environments that people might have too, which is like just having to do like proactive troubleshooting to like make sure things are compatible. But there's just something to be said retro-wise to be like, I'm going to use the actual Street Fighter 3 Third Strike disc in my Dreamcast and play that version of the game. Just feels a little bit different, especially with that arcade stick,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. There's something different about popping in the actual game, no doubt about it.
Yeah, as we are sickos and now are collecting retro again, Kevin.
I know. I got to get off that train. No, but I've been having so much fun going back to the shops and stuff. So I'm not even gonna say that. So
yeah.
But I don't know anything else before we wrap things up here tonight, guys. I feel like we had another marathon one here.
Oh yeah,
warranted with the Switch 2 release, and I feel like with those fight sticks for that matter, and a little FPS action. So definitely warranted this week with all sorts of video game action. But I think we can wrap things up here for the evening. And as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com and virtually anywhere else on the internet that you can imagine. Well, not anywhere, but a handful of other places.
The world's your oyster when it comes to Pursuing Pixels.
In a few other plases.
We believe in you.
But until next week, we'll catch you then, and take care.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Fuck, I need to play my goddamn games. We're halfway through the year.
Yes, sir.
I know. I kind of forgot what mine is, actually. I actually totally forgot what mine is.
What were everybody's?
Mine was Umineko When They Cry.
Nice.
Let me see if I wrote it down here.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't remember what yours is at all.
I don't have a clue. Here we go. No.
No.
No, it couldn't be.
Uncharted 4. I played it.
Oh, yeah, it was Uncharted 4. It totally was.
I guess I got to it right away.
You did.
I forgot that I did that. I
remember because I was trying to push you to play more of it, and you're like, nah.
I might, but I doubt it.
No, I don't think you are.
The last thing I was doing, as soon as I was just thinking about maybe I will, and I was just thinking about pushing that fucking crate. That was the last thing I was doing. I'm not doing that. And then Randall, do you know what yours was?
Yakuza.
Okay, I was gonna say that was nice and coincidental.
Yakuza
if it was
0.
If you didn't know.
Before I knew there was a director's cut that was going to be released on the brand new Nintendo Switch 2 console.
It was
That works out.
serendipity.
They did it for the podcast, for the sake of the podcast.
That's
They're
right.
fans.
Yes.
Fans of the pod.